In this episode we take a look at 4 point-and-click adventures from the mid-2000s that collectively formed Chzo Mythos, a horror series that seems to be remembered fondly by many. Here's the verse that started it all: 5 Days a Stranger. The series was created by Ben Chzo, who in these days is mainly known for the video game review show Zero Punctuation, but back in the 2000s he was a notable contributor in adventure game studio community. In fact, he was the first person who managed to create a functioning game with that engine. His 2003 foray into more drama-heavy work was highly praised and won 5 of that year's AGS awards, including Best Game and Dialogue. Since then there has been debates on if these awards were warranted, but I can't comment on that because I haven't played the other nominees. And because these 4 games are so tightly connected plot-wise, there's probably going to be some spoilers, but once again I'll try to be as vague as possible. We start our saga in 1993, though this game doesn't tell you that it's a retcon presenting the next game, on British countryside where the Foe family manor has become unvacated after the previous owners died in an apparent murder-suicide. Many are interested on the secrets it holds, including our main character Trilby, a self-proclaimed gentleman thief who doesn't have a personality. He is somewhat elevated by his unusual profession, but Trilby doesn't showcase any faults. Even Mr. Chzo have admitted him to be a blatant wish fulfillment author avatar. There are places for power fantasies, but his unbreakable nerves make it less believable when horror stuff starts to happen. Upon entering the mansion, Trilby realizes he can no longer get out of it, and finds 3 other unfortunate souls. A quote-unquote treasure hunter, Philip Harty, a TV reporter, Simone Taylor, and a high school student, Jim Fowler, and that's a pretty solid cast. Oh, there's also a secretive guy AJ, but he is only seen for a short moment in the beginning before getting murdered. Understandably, tensions get high. If there's anything I can give even to the weakest entries in this series, it's their ability to build a depressing atmosphere and use horror cliches in new creative ways. My favorite being the seamless transitions from reality to nightmares. They also try to build atmosphere with music and sound, though that method is less stellar. Sure, the random creaking and decently selected RPG Maker tracks keep one on their toes, but more often than not it's just dead silence, only broken by footsteps that in the earlier games cause weird stuttering on newer devices and makes the game feel tedious when it happens. This is made even worse when combined with the most frequent type of puzzle in the series. Find where the next plot forwarding trigger is. The puzzles are usually very logical, although in 5 Days a Stranger there are several small logical fallacies in its story structure, like how Trilby's car just suddenly appears to the backyard. Yep, no explanation of any kind. Overall, 5 Days a Stranger is alright for what it is. Despite some clunkier game mechanics, it's a tightly packaged light horror experience. So what would its first sequel try to do in order to surpass it? Why, go to space, of course! 7 Days a Skeptic, everyone. Released a year after the previous game, this one has gotten lukewarm reception, and despite many AGS award nominations, it only won 2 for non-player character and sound, and lost the Best Game to Apprentice 2 The Night's Move that I haven't played. Over the years, general consensus has named this entry as the weakest of them all, so let's look why that is. Taking place in 2385 on the board of space scouting ship Mephistopheles. Yeah, the game tends to be rather pretentious, which even Mr. Chzo admitted in his Let's Play. In fact, the skeptic in the title doesn't mean anything, it just sounds cool. This time our lead is Jonathan Somerset, who works as the spaceship's psychiatrist and who, along with the rest of the 6-person group, are all summoned by their captain Barry Cahal, who happens to be on one final mission before retirement, so I'm sure nothing bad will happen to him. They have found a mysterious metal box floating in space, and the Captain Genius here flat out discards protocol and takes it on board. And it apparently stores the remains of the first game's villain. Not to spoil too much 5 Days a Stranger, but John Defoe is an important figure from Manor Defoe's past who has become a vengeful wraith, so now that he has entered the picture, it's a no-brainer that there's going to be accidents. While he acts uncharacteristically smart in this game, he manages to be an ominous and effective threat. That may also be partly because all the other characters in this game are incompetent morons. Even abstract concepts like physics are not safe from this because, well, I'm not a scientist, but I'm sure this isn't possible in a vacuum. The most idiotic instance is this where Jonathan discovers a dismembered body. First of all, this day system makes no sense. Why does it take an entire day to take someone to prison? Also, the second-in-command Angela Garrett is supposed to follow the protocol, but it's hard to believe that she would follow it this far beyond common sense. It's this kind of stuff that gets you killed. Alright, there are also chase scenes and lots of more ways to die, so save often. Come to think of it, this game has the same narrative problems as Alien Covenant. Though this one is also spiced with the infamous last-second plot twist that has to be seen to be believed. I agree with the general public, 7 Days Skeptic is the worst of this bunch. So let's see how a 2-year break would improve things in Trilby's notes. The third entry in the series got a better reception, earning once again that year's Best Game AGS award along with 3 others, though from 2006 nominees I personally prefer Reactor 09. This game will prove to be the most influential of them all by defining how people see Chzo Mythos as a whole, which it partly manages with a large amount of retcons. The first of them being that Trilby's 5-day experience in Defoe Manor has left him far more traumatized than the first game's ending led to believe. So yeah, Trilby returns as the player character, though this time he is an actual person who started as an egotistical prick, but since then has become humble, if a little paranoid. And if you want to see the full extent of Trilby's prickness that was totally present in the first game, we swear, then I've played the spin-off title Art of Theft. It has been 4 years after Defoe Manor's incident when Trilby, who now works as an agent to some paranormal activity bureau, finds out that the wooden idol that houses John Defoe's soul survived the Manor's destruction and has been circling around various antique dealers, finally ending in the possession of Professor Abed Kahal, who is holding an exposition/auction for all things Defoe. Trilby masquerading as a fellow antiques dealer gets in contact with him and his assistant Siofan O'Malley, and then... So soon after that, Trilby transfers into nightmarish world of magic. In this entry, horror atmosphere is at its peak with visceral imagery, creepy whispers and good foreboding soundtrack by AGS court composer Mark Lovegrove. Even the silences use well in the empty real-life hotel instead of making it feel like a slog. What makes Trilby's notes unique in the series is its parcel system, where the players have to write in the commands they want Trilby to perform. I'm torn in the middle about this solution. On one hand, it allows for more complex puzzles, but their difficulty is partly due to trying to guess what term the game developer meant. It would have been nice if there was some kind of alternative solutions. And it's doubly annoying for non-native English speakers who don't know all the words, like chisel for example. Why just not call it a carving knife? However, perhaps the most significant part of the game is its lore building, as about half of it is spent in flashbacks that chronicle the history of the wooden idol and how it's connected to a menacing and silent yet surprisingly charismatic being, the Tall Man, also known as the Arrogant Man and the Prince, who spreads death and destruction whenever the wood that the idol was carved from appears throughout history. He even inspires the creation of a cult that is centered around worshipping his master, Pain Elemental Chzo. This is indeed the first time in the series Chzo is mentioned, making this whole game a giant retcon where its sole purpose is to make 5 Days a Stranger and 7 Days a Skeptic seem better stories than they actually are. I've never seen something like this where the very things that give a series its identity are introduced this late in its run. It's so weird considering that the next game will be the last one. Though there were some stuff building up to it, like the before mentioned 2D stealth platformer Art of Theft and 3 text-based adventures. So, let's not dally any longer and finish this retrospective with 6 Days a Sacrifice. The fourth game had once again less luck in AGS award voting, only winning 2 for story and non-player character and losing the best game to Nelly Kutalot Spoonbigs Ahoy! Yeah, so much better choice in my opinion. Let's go to the game's shortfalls on fuller detail later as we get to the year 2189, when our hapless protagonist Theoda Kaab is checking on a trendy religious sex building permits and gets shafted down the elevator shaft for his troubles. He's saved by Dr. Samantha Hardy, who has done some shady stuff for the sect, and reporter Janine Orchakovsky, who found out that the sect is only a front to the sinister sadomasochistic cult the Order of Blessed Agonies from the previous game. It's up to them to avoid a delusional cult member, a bunch of Trilby-looking dudes, and our old pal the Tall Man, and stop the cult's plan to summon Chzo into the realm of technology! To be honest, I don't like the story that much in this one. There's no brain-dead characters, but it's kind of lame considering it's a serious finale, which is partly caused by this red robe dude who says Theo from tight spots. Why, you ask? Before the Fates said so! Look, I don't question this, I'm just here to remove all meaning from character choices. And he also removes the tension from game mechanics wise because he doesn't allow Theo to die. So, unlike the other entries in this series, there's no fail state. Jeez, when has that ever removed tension before? As for gameplay, 6 Days a Sacrifice follows the formula established by the 2 first games, and there's not much more to say as it copies the same strengths and weaknesses. Good soundtrack that supports the dread-inducing atmosphere, and cleverish puzzles that are hindered by not knowing where they are and language barrier issues, and sometimes the music stops making the atmosphere dull. Well, one of the ways members of the Order like to torture themselves is boredom, so I guess that's fitting. Let's go fast to summary as maybe this episode has taken way too long already, so Chzo Mythos, it's alright, mostly. While its quality is partly elevated by nostalgia and the heavy retcons the last 2 games made, there are some genuine moments of brilliance in the saga. Horror is constructed effectively, as is the soundscape whenever it doesn't too heavily rely on silence, and puzzles are fairly well made, though these games tend to do a poor job at pointing the player to the right direction. And sometimes the story leaps over logic and characters are memorable for all the wrong reasons. Still, I'd say these games are worth at least one playthrough. In the next episode I shall finally finish this overdue season with the 3rd Golden Sun game. Until then, thanks for your time.